Thank you. I'll try that again. Can I take it that the minutes of the previous meeting can be signed as a correct record of what took place? Thank you. I shall do so afterwards. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? None. Thank you. Item 3, do we have any public participation? No public participation. We get now to item 4, which is announcements. I have to announce, for those of you who don't know, with sorrow, the death of a former councillor, Councillor Linda Morris. Does anyone wish to say anything about Linda Morris? Councillor Griffiths.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Linda Morris was a Labour councillor who served on this council from 1983 to 1991. She was a councillor when I joined the council, and the next time the elections came round, she stood down. But Linda and I kept bumping into one another at various things. She was involved as a trustee with Community Action Decorum, or Decorum CVS, I think it was called at that time. She was also on the board of the Hightown Praetorian Housing Association. And she was a member of one of the Worshipful Mayor of London things. I'm not really sure what they are, and I can't remember which name it was. But she was a lovely lady. She got very involved in local issues. And it is very sad to hear of her party. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. Councillor Tyndall, did you wish to say something?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. While I didn't know the councillor, I do believe that anybody that serves the community in the way that she should be recognised and given her due respect. And on behalf of all of the group on this side of the house, we will join with considerations to her family.
Thank you, Councillor Tyndall. I would now ask members to stand for a minute's silence in condolence. Thank you. We now come to announcements by the Chief Executive. I'm sorry to hear that the Chief Executive is indisposed tonight. Councillor Doe, Mr. Doe, will you be taking this item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one announcement this evening. The results of the Kings Langley Neighbourhood Plan referendum held on the 17th of November 2022 are as follows. In response to the question, do you want Dacorum Borough Council to use the neighbourhood plan for Kings Langley to help it decide planning applications in the neighbourhood area? The results were 842 votes in favour and 73 votes were against. The turnout was 20.14%. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Doe. We now come to announcements by group leaders. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I tender apologies on behalf of Councillor Bassadoni, Guest and Imani?
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to tender apologies on behalf of Councillor Freedman and Councillor Foster.
Thank you. We now come to Council Leader and members of the Cabinet as portfolio holders. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing on this particular section that's not covered by the other portfolio reports, but happy to take questions.
No questions? Thank you. We shall now then move on to your commercial strategy and delivery portfolio. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly to update members on the commercial strategy. Work is continuing on development of our commercial programme. 4 business cases are being developed by officers and work is being supported by our commercial advisors, Commercial Gov. 2 full business cases are very close to completion, I'm pleased to say, and they are likely to be presented to scrutiny in Cabinet early in the new year. The rest will be taken through approval process when they are finalised. The wider commercial programme work is being developed and new proposals will be added to the programme for initial case assessment as they are identified. This work will be ongoing and will become business as usual as part of the Council's commercial approach. Commercial board meetings continue to meet regularly, and at these meetings officers oversee the development of business cases along with the progression of the garage strategy, the EV charging project, all procurement activities. The board also closely monitors commercial income to the Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to take questions.
No questions? Thank you, members. We shall now then move on to neighbourhood services. Councillor Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Under Parks and Open Spaces, we've planted 69,800 bedding bulbs. We've laid 35 square metres of wildflower turf and planted 3,000 bee-friendly bulbs in Nash Mills. We've donated 1,000 bluebell bulbs and wild garlic bulbs for community planting project. So 100 square metres of wildflower seeds have been planted at Pond Road. And we have given 2,000 bulbs of various varieties to the Oakwood Drive community group in Berkhamsted. Swanmead has been planted with wildflower meadowscape. We've delivered 15 square metres of wildflower turf plus 1,000 bee-friendly bulbs to Flaundon Parish Council. 651 bee tubes have been returned to Mason Bees, which is double the amount from last year. We've extended the COVID Memorial wildflower area, again by using meadowscape. And work is continuing on the butterfly chalk bank at Warner's End, where we are creating a new chalk banked area, which will be sown with seeds suitable for attracting local rare butterflies and moths. And the chalk is due to be delivered to arrive this week. Under Clean Safe Green, road sweeping deep cleans have been carried out in Berkhamsted, Bovingdon, Tring, Markyate and Chipperfield. We've carried out the A41 litter picking, working jointly with HCC. We had a total of 20 staff together with 6 vehicles working on this, and more than 4,000 kilos of litter was collected. The end of season cut was completed on the A414 Central Reservation, and we have completed work on 90% of the cut and collect wildflower areas. Replacement bins that were ordered in June were delivered in October, replacing 65 old style basket bins with new ones, and the work is now 80% complete. New goalposts ordered in June have been delivered, with installation beginning in early December. And the first batch of 54 replacement street nameplates are due to be installed from early December. Under trees and woodlands, we are planting new trees across the borough, including 60 standard trees and 2,000 whips, which have been grant funded through the Local Authority Treescape Fund. Grant funded trees will be planted in Brook Street, Tring, Randalls Park and Bunkers Park, with the whips being planted in Bunkers Park by the Friends Group in January 2023. In addition, we're also planting a further 70 standard trees and 500 whips across various locations in the borough. We're organising the collection of whips by Decorum residents from Cupid Green for the HCC free tree giveaway on the 3rd of December. About 350 residents are expected to collect trees allocated through the HCC product for planting within their own gardens. Under environmental projects, at the clothes swap, we had nearly 200 people attend our autumn sustainable clothes swaps. The more than 1,400 items of clothing were brought along, of which 96% were swapped. By swapping over 1,400 items of clothes instead of buying new, residents prevented 8.5 tonnes of CO2e, carbon dioxide equivalent, that would have been used to produce these items. The remaining clothes were donated to the Air Ambulance and Cancer Research. Love Food, Hate Waste. 50 households are currently taking part in the challenge. Participants are currently over halfway through the challenge, which involves them completing a pre- and post-challenge survey, filling out their food waste diaries throughout the month, following the advice from 2 emails a week, one featuring a key behaviour to follow, and the other featuring an ingredient of the week. At the end of the challenge, statistics will be available once participants have completed the post-challenge survey. Nappy November, we shared social media throughout the month, encouraging uptake of reusable nappies by making use of nappy libraries and the Hertz reusable nappy scheme. We distributed leaflets and posters to businesses in the borough to promote the scheme, and we're preparing to have a stall at Decorum Parent Cafe event in December. We supported the same sustainability team with setting up and running the recent event, Amanda stall, during the networking times, showcasing environmental projects that we're running and various recycling information. School talks, we presented three school assemblies, including 2 nursery groups, content including information about recycling, litter and food waste. Street champions, we welcomed 27 new street champions in the past month, bringing the total to 948 registered, 582 of which have collected their equipment. We supported 5 litter picking events by loaning the equipment to the community. Under waste services, we successfully completed plain village collections in Flamstead and Markyate. Christmas collections will take place, and we should be back to Christmas will take place over Christmas, and we'll be back to normal collections by the 11th of January, with the Christmas Eve recycling taking place on Sunday, the 8th of January. Thank you.
Congratulations. Dead on the mark. Are there any questions for Councillor Barrett?
Sorry, I've got.
Councillor Pringle.
Thank you. It's good to hear that you've done road sweeping, deep cleans in Berkhamsted and Tring. Can you clarify whether that includes Northchurch?
I can't, but I'll find out and let you know.
Thank you.
They don't get supplementaries. Councillor Madden.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask if Graham would kindly pass on our thanks from the Parish Council and all the residents in Nash Mills for the wonderful rewilding project that we've been implementing over there with the help of Rob Cassidy and the team. So could you please pass on my thanks? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Madden, and I'll welcome the opportunity to pass on your thanks. Thank you.
If there are no other questions for Councillor Barrett, we will move on to communities. Oh, sorry, a late introduction. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering whether there had been any reduction in waste on the A41 since the introduction of the signs that made motorists aware of the costs of clearing the waste that went out a year or 2 ago.
Yes, I'm told by a colleague to the left that yes, there has been.
Thank you.
Can I have a supplementary, Mr. Mayor, please?
It's not normal, but we will allow it since we're approaching Christmas. I will speak to you later about that, if I may, the Leader of the Opposition, but we will allow you to ask a supplementary.
Sorry, I'm afraid, let us clear this up for the minutes, please, Mr Mayor. Could I ask the legal officer to actually state what is said in the Constitution, which I believe is that at the end of the answer to the question, the Mayor should actually ask the questioner whether they have a supplementary. It is for the Mayor to actually ask the questioner if they want have a supplementary.
With reference to the Constitution, I can't immediately find that reference that the Mayor should actually ask the questioner if they have a supplementary. That would be for the discretion of the Mayor to allow if he so wishes.
I would just point out to Councillor Tyndall that I asked this question of the legal officer before the meeting and was assured that I was only to ask for supplementaries with regard to written questions. Thank you, but nevertheless, let us proceed. Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just wondering if in time the portfolio holder could confirm what improvement in waste reduction has been on the A41. Obviously, I'm writing a later date. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll endeavour to attain the figures for you and supply them to you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Oh, Councillor Barry Mears.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask if we have any predictions of how much money you think we'll be making from charging £45 a year for green bin collections compared to how much more it might cost, say, clearing up extra fly tipping that lots of people are suggesting maybe turn to at this time when no one's really got an extra 45 quid.
I'm not sure that this is the right portfolio holder as far as that question is concerned, but perhaps if you can answer it, fine.
Thank you. Yeah, it is anticipated in the paper that went to over in scrutiny and to cabinet with a 30% take up, then the income is circa £600,000. And I think the thought that suddenly all our residents would turn into fly tippers because we introduce a £45 charge for green waste is, well, it's just not sensible. I don't think that will happen. Thank you.
We can Councillor Whitelow.
Oh, do I not get a supplementary? Just checking. No?
Councillor Whitelow.
Oh, no worries.
Councillors' right to ask a supplementary if they wish. That is in the Constitution.
I will come back to you. Councillor Whitelow.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can you excuse me if I don't stand up? Could I ask the portfolio holder, we are the 8th council in the county who have decided to start charging for green bin collection. I'm not aware that they have found any increase in fly tipping and adverse behaviour since they implemented their charges. I wondered whether you had any information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitelow, and for the opportunity of actually stating that you're quite correct. There is all the anecdotal evidence is that there has been no increase in fly tipping in where the authorities have introduced green waste or garden waste collection charges.
Thank you, Councillor Barry Mears.
Thank you. I was just going to ask if that means that you think that we're going to be exactly the same as when these were introduced, when there wasn't a cost of living crisis then, and if there is a sort of plan in place for if people do start putting this waste in their black bins, when it's going to increase, because like I said, people don't just have an extra £45 at the minute. I don't think it was the right time, but clearly you think it was the right time to increase extra charges.
I'm afraid I just don't accept the premise that residents will put their green waste in their black bins.
Thank you. If there are no other questions for Councillor Barrett, then we move on to Communities. Councillor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Turning first to COVID-19, work is still ongoing with COVID-19. The Health Protection Board are preparing for the next wave this autumn based on modelling that we've undertaken. May I ask all members and residents across Dacorum to stay safe and get vaccinated. We have secured funding from the Contain Outbreak Management Fund to prepare for further waves of COVID and respiratory disease illnesses by providing health and safety training for all managers of people with a focus on infection control measures. Animal Welfare Award. The Animal Welfare Service have been successfully awarded a Gold Paw Print Award for the excellent service provided for stray dogs. All members are reminded that the Council does have responsibilities under the Animal Welfare Act and concerns should be reported to the dog warden inbox. Fly tipping. The operations team have successfully prosecuted a fly tipper yesterday following a jury trial earlier this year. This was namely scrap vehicle parts, sofas and plastics that were left in Coles Lane in Markyate without having in place an environmental permit authorising them to make that deposit. The fly tipper was sentenced to 10 months imprisonment but suspended for 12 months. They are to attend 15 days rehabilitation activities and contribute towards the costs, a sum of £900, compensation to £600 to pay towards the clear-up. I would like to remind members and residents that we will not tolerate fly tipping. We have a zero tolerance policy here in Dacorum. There will be a press release shortly in the local papers to try and act as a deterrent to further fly tipping. Turning to community, the Healthy Hub. Since its launch in June 2020, the Healthy Hub in Dacorum has provided residents across Dacorum with health and wellbeing support on a range of significant issues affecting all demographics of people. As of today, 3,173 residents have been supported by the Healthy Hub with advice, signposting and referring to local and county-wide services. Mr. Mayor, we have also now launched the Healthy Hub Dacorum Small Grant with £5,000 of funding provided by Public Health to create new partnerships by financially supporting health and wellbeing projects across Dacorum. A one-off payment of £500 per applicant is to be offered, and this should be approved by the end of December in order to support applicants from next year. Finally, the Old Town Hall. The Old Town Hall made a significant contribution to the recently successful Halloween event held in the Old Town, with a mad science and creepy crawly event in the venue. They were fully booked out and all have had very positive reviews. The team are now working on their entertainments programme for the January to March 2023 period. As part of the ongoing review of the Old Town Hall, we are looking at new letting opportunities, including how we can make better usage of the arches. Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Banks. Are there any questions for Councillor Banks? Councillor England.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I noticed in the last couple of days that St Albans Council and Watford Council have both announced the locations of their warm hubs for this year, for the winter. Can the portfolio holder tell us where the Dacorum ones are, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor England. I don't have a definitive list, but I do know the one at Grove Hill Community Centre started last Monday, and on the Hertfordshire County Council website, there are lists of all the warm hubs by district, so you can search under Dacorum and all the lists will pop up there with their dates, activities, opening times and what they're offering. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sure you have a supplementary, Councillor England.
Mr Mayor, I've been here for 6 years and it's always been the custom that we've had supplementaries, and I'm sure you're aware of that. As it happens, I don't have a supplementary on this occasion. I'll save everybody's time.
Thank you, Councillor England.
Any other questions for the portfolio holder? Then we shall move on to Councillor Anderson, portfolio holder for Place.
Good evening, Mr Mayor. On the Chiltern Beechwoods moratorium, Cabinet last week implemented our mitigation strategy for doing our best that anybody can do about the problem, and lifted the moratorium for new residential builds in parts of the borough furthest from Ashridge, so for example Hemel Hempstead. The whole issue is quite complicated. There are still one or two minor things that need to be resolved, but the essentials are all in place. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank officers who've been involved in it for the tremendous effort they've had to put into it. We've effectively had to set up a brand new sill system. It's like another layer of sill, and it's all been done without the direct precedent of experience elsewhere. So I tip my hat to the officers for the work they've done on it. And I will make the point that the issue wouldn't have cropped up, it wouldn't have been tackled, and we wouldn't be doing what anybody can do to protect these areas as much as possible if the council hadn't refused to follow the local plan process. Moving on, the Paradise design codes and the employment and skills supplementary planning documents are open to consultation at the moment, and that ends on the 28th of November. Under economic development, the economic recovery plan is continuing. At last week's development management meeting, the council refreshed its Article 4 directions to protect key employment areas in the borough. With business improvement districts, one is required to do an electoral review every 5 years, and the council is supporting the Hemel Hempstead Business Improvement District vote, which closes on Friday. The turnout so far has been low, but only needs a majority in terms of the number of businesses and a majority in terms of the rateable value. And finally, under economic development, I hope members have seen the snow dogs that have taken up station around the centre of Hemel Hempstead. I'd like to thank Councillor Beecham for using his local sill to support that project. Under Hemel Place, I hope members by now are aware of the Council's Hemel Place strategy, and I'd like members to consider taking part in the consultation, which runs until the 8th of January, by visiting the website thinkhemel.com. And I'll extend that invitation to everyone. The more people who participate in that consultation, the better. We have Hemel Place board meetings, I believe, set for later this week and also in early January. And also, just so that other parts of the borough don't feel left out, the Common Place, who are people that are helping us undertake the place strategy, are setting up Thinking Place steering groups for Berkhamsted and Tring. Under the Council's Hemel Hempstead Old Town strategy, Councillor Banks has already referred to the Halloween event run in conjunction with Community Action Decorum. The Council is currently working through the public realm improvements that have been identified for the Old Town High Street, and the next public engagement meeting will be taking place on the 1st of December. With the Hemel Gardens Communities project, the Council's steering group reviewed the initial framework earlier this week and are looking at transport options before Christmas. The South West Herts Joint Strategic Plan Regulation 18 consultation went well, with over 5,000 written replies. The highest response, a quarter from Decorum, residents alone and staff still working through the online questionnaire responses. Commercial assets, performance of commercial assets strong, with occupancy above 95% and income 2% above budget. Council's taking a constructive approach to debtors. The team successfully passed its internal audit, with auditors happy with the overall performance and making only three very minor bureaucratic recommendations. Work continues on completing the drainage for the new crematorium. Under housing development, the council's obtained £9 million grant from Homes England to support our development programme. The projects are progressing as planned, for example, Paradise, Margaret's Way, Randall's Ride, Wilston and 5 garage blocks. Council's planning a topping out ceremony for Eastic Row in January, and the only fly in the ointment has been the delays with Herts County Council and the Section 278 applications to do with highway arrangements. And I'm happy to take questions, Mayor, having hit 5 minutes exactly.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Councillor, I've got Councillor Elliott first.
Thank you, Councillor Anderson. Could I ask you to pass on my thanks to the Economic Development team, your Commercial Assets team and the Environmental Health team, all together as they helped to reopen a very valuable butcher's shop in my ward, as the owner had passed away and the 2 employees were gifted the shop to look after, and there was really, they were marching against time to get this open, and we basically granted a food licence which normally takes 28 days within 4 hours. So we really pulled out the stops, and the 3 areas of the council worked together very well and very pragmatically. So could you pass on my thanks to them?
Is there a question?
I will indeed, Mr. Mayor. However, if environmental health were involved, I'd have to do that via Councillor Banks. But more than happy to do so, Mr. Mayor.
Happy to oblige, Mr. Mayor.
I assume you have no supplementary, so we'll pass on to Councillor Hollinghurst.
Thank you. On the 20th of October, at the Development Management Committee, we passed plans for 32 residential units at Marchmont Farm, and I was very pleased to vote in favour of it. It was an excellent scheme. Fabric First policy is being well applied. The insulation is of Passive House standard. This is something very good. It will save considerable amount of CO2 emissions during the life of the scheme. However, despite a small number of PV cells mounted on part of the roofing to provide lighting just around the scheme itself, there remained significant additional roof space that could have been fitted with further PV panels. Now, I suggest that's a missed opportunity, and I would like to ask the portfolio holder, would he not agree with me that what was a very good scheme could have been even better had the full availability of the roof space been fitted with additional PV panels, so that we could further mitigate climate change, and we are faced with an emergency, but also we could have then generated some income for the council from the sale of the surplus electricity. And I have a supplementary after the answer of the portfolio holder, please.
Mr. Mayor, I might have been at that committee meeting, but for the life of me, I can't remember the issue being raised then or the circumstances. I share a passion about solar panels for generating electricity, because as some members may be aware, I'm completely opposed to the idea of wind turbines. But moving on, I think in terms of the actual, we have to look at the scheme itself. And I know that the council's following its climate change action plan, and everything would have been done to max out the sustainability measures as much as possible. So I don't believe it would have been possible with the scheme itself. And if you start saying that with all our schemes we could shove solar panels on all the buildings around them whilst we're at it, we'll be opening ourselves a massive bottomless pit that we just couldn't get into. It's a lovely idea. I do think there needs to be a lot more solar panels put on buildings, but I don't think that's a practical suggestion in this case.
Councillor Hollinghurst, you said you had a supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Yes, indeed. Well, I understand the answer from the portfolio holder, but I'm a little bit disappointed because that scheme is now sort of done and dusted, and to retrofit PV panels on a scheme after it's completed is more expensive. So my supplementary question to him is, bearing in mind the budgetary pressures, would he in future, when presented with a new scheme of this nature, make sure that we do get the maximum potential from that scheme by covering as much as is feasible and practical of the roofs to produce electricity to mitigate the council, to mitigate the climate change, and to generate income for the council for decades to come.
Councillor Anderson.
Turn my microphone off, sorry, Mayor. In my view, officers are already doing that, but I'm more than happy to do that as part of any process. Thank you, mate.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilkie.
Thank you, Mayor. Does the portfolio holder agree that following the mitigation strategy compiled with National Trust and Natural England, the local plan, as was, is no longer fit for purpose and will change so significantly as to require a full second public consultation?
I don't think, Mr. Mayor, that the administration has made any secret of our plans to carry out another consultation, a full consultation in due course. So I'm not quite sure what it was only by following the process that we were able to, as I've said earlier already, we identified the problem and we're dealing with it. If we hadn't followed the process and we had a situation where developers were developing what they like, where they like, that wouldn't have allowed anybody to have got any sort of grip on this problem at all.
So the answer to the question.
Thank you, Chair.
I didn't think that the answer is yes.
Thank you.
I didn't think
May I
that
have
was
a
the Mayor's
supplementary
role,
question?
Chair.
I assume that the question was answered yes.
Yes.
Councillor Wilkie, you have a supplement.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that confirmation. Does the portfolio agree that the mitigation strategy will only prevent a small proportion of additional footfall to Ashridge and at best will only succeed in moving the problem to other areas such as Gadebridge Park and not solve it?
Mr. Mayor, this was raised at the first scrutiny meeting when the issue first arose. Nobody at any stage has tried to pretend that we are going to divert every single person away from Ashridge. What the goal of the scheme is to do the best that anybody can do to reduce the problem as much as possible. And the only other alternative, barring any that we've had from members opposite, would have been to have not done it, and that would not have helped solve the problem.
Thank you. Councillor Harden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Concern has been raised by residents within the area of Bunkers Park and Chipperfield Common that the enhancements in those areas is due to potential expansive growth of housing within that geographical location. Could the portfolio holder reassure residents in those areas that that is not the case?
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you for the question. Unfortunately, there was some consternation in Chipperfield, particularly about Chipperfield Common being designated as a suitable alternative natural green space. And again, the Assistant Director has really bent over backwards to communicate with community leaders in Chipperfield. And he attended a parish council meeting yesterday to confirm that it does not involve any additional development around Chipperfield, and nor does it involve a plague of locusts all descending on Chipperfield Common all at once on one afternoon and wrecking the common. It doesn't involve that for one moment. So a lot of work has gone in to try to reassure communities that it doesn't involve the kind of panicking that people were fearing.
Do you have a supplementary? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Anderson. As there appear to be no other questions, we'll now move on to Councillor Elliott and Corporate Services.
Yeah, good evening, Mr Mayor. Since the last council meeting, the corporate services team have been, as usually, very busy. The finance services team have been immersed, firstly, in the preparation and delivery of the council's MTFS, which is on this evening's agenda, and as a referral from Cabinet, and the preparation of the 23-24 draft budget proposals that will be presented to the budget scrutiny in 2 weeks' time. In the last week, the service has been tasked with understanding the impact of the autumn statement on next year's budget and the medium-term financial planning. The Finance Service is also working closely with the Commercial Project team to develop the basis of the Council's future commercial strategy and full business case appraisals. Moving on to the Revenue and Benefits Service. The Revenue Service has been hard at work implementing the energy bill rebates and have almost completed this work. The schemes remain open until the end of November, but the team are confident that all eligible residents have been contacted and paid early. The National Energy Rebate Scheme, which paid out £150 to all eligible households, has allocated £6.6 million to 43,800 households, and the Local Discretionary Scheme has allocated an additional £280,000 to 7,600 households. The rollout of the COVID grants and relief schemes earlier this year, combined with the energy rebate schemes, have combined to create a huge amount of work for the service. We have worked extremely hard to maximise the benefits to Dacorum households and businesses. The focus for the Revenues team going forward will be the collection of business rates and council tax, and the Benefits Service will support the increasing number of benefit queries they are receiving at present. With the Legal and Democratic Services team, the legal team continues to support the core council service delivery and key corporate strategies to support the statutory and legislative frameworks in place. The elections team successfully carried out the Kings Langley Neighbourhood Plan referendum held on the 17th of November. The team delivered a smooth and professional election for all electors in the Kings Langley ward. In addition to this election, the Hemel bid ballot will take place on the 24th of November, supported by the Council's election team. Now, moving on to people and transformation, it has been a busy few months. We are close to finalising new digital people and communication strategies. These will come to Cabinet for decision in December, and is approved will be an important step towards the transformation of ambitions. There have been a number of successful events. The communication team organised and promoted the hugely popular Old Town Halloween event, attended by thousands of residents, with excellent feedback from businesses and visitors to the event. In addition, we have held the Remembrance Sunday Parade, attended by numerous dignitaries, dozens of community groups and thousands of residents, and it was probably one of the most well-attended parades in several years. Dacorum Life magazine was produced this month and delivered to over 65,000 homes, showcasing the wide variety of work delivered by the Council. Internally, we've held a very successful long service award ceremony for staff at the forum, with another for Cupid Green staff to follow at the end of the month. Our customer strategy work is gathering pace, with the first deliverable signed off by Cabinet. We now have a new complaints policy and supporting processes which will help us deliver quick, consistent and clear responses to any complaints which we receive. The technology team have also been busy developing a working solution for capturing street issues like graffiti and fly tipping. This allows the community service team to capture a photo and tag the issue with an accurate GPS position. The information is then automatically sent over to the waste team so they can deal with the issue and rectify it as soon as possible. And lastly, our new Head of Digital, Yvonne Salvin, also started the post on the 10th of November. Happy to take any questions, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Questions for Councillor Elliott? There appear to be none. In which case, We will move on to Councillor Griffiths, Housing Services.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The Housing Service are engaging with the finance team to determine rent charges for 23-24 financial year. The 7% increase in the rents and service charges for tenants that has been proposed, and this is in line with the approach taken by stockholding authorities across Hertfordshire. Strategic Housing Service Area proactively engaging with HCC, Strategic Migration Partnerships, VCS, to provide wraparound support for resettlement and asylum sites across Dacorum. Proactive engagement is led by the service to address any issues arising in the borough. Early engagement is underway with a Dacorum-based hotel in relation to regulatory breaches in accordance with the Housing Act 2004 and the use of unlicensed HMO. Engagement is likely to lead to further enforcement action being taken due to management concerns. A successful stakeholder engagement event has been undertaken to support the development of the Council's new housing strategy, which will shape the future priorities for affordable housing delivery in the borough. Following 2 successful stakeholder events, final action plan proposals are being shaped with Community Action Dacorum in relation to the rising cost of living impacts on our residents. And there will be a forthcoming member briefing events that have been scheduled for the new year in relation to new build development programme and building safety. Sessions will provide useful overview for members in relation to these key areas of activity, including the alignment of best practice and national guidance legislative frameworks. Can I also raise under this that on Friday I am doing the sleep out for dens, and I know it's all been sent electronically, but for those of you who don't like using your credit card or debit card online, and like the old-fashioned way, I have got a manual form that you can sign tonight as well. So if I could also, I noticed, I've just seen your email, Jan, that Jan and her Scout group are doing it as well. I don't care who you sponsor, just as long as you sponsor someone, it's all going to Dens, a really worthy charity in our borough. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Griffiths, especially for the advertisement. Are there any questions for Councillor Griffiths? Councillor Symington.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Griffiths. I just wanted to ask, do you monitor or have any figures for the reports of mould in any council-owned or housing association properties used by anyone, any residents in the borough? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I did, I certainly wouldn't have them to hand, to be perfectly honest. But I would also, we will have these figures. Obviously, we have all the figures of all the reports that residents ring us about or contact us about, but only for our own properties. We have no duty of care in that respect for housing associations or private landlords. Obviously, if they are in breach or under the private sector housing team, any landlord that home wasn't up to legislative rights, then there would be a way in there. But no, I wouldn't have those information to hand. So I'm going around this a very long-winded way, but I will get the figures to you. But can I just, whilst you've asked that question, if you'd allow me, just some, anyway, mould is a big issue. Obviously, we've seen about this, but the very tragic death. All mould is taken seriously when it's reported and checked out. And whilst, so long as it isn't like a water issue in the property, pipes, drain pipes, whatever, a lot of the issue is the way we live our lives now. So we have done items in News and Views with residents. It's in the handbook about, you know, making sure that there's airflow in the house. In the winter, that's obviously worse because we all want to keep the heat in, and we've got so good at keeping heat in, but it also keeps all the moisture in. So as soon as you put a hot water tap running, if you don't have any ventilation going on, we know a lot of our residents block up the air vents and the air gaps. Using this forum, could I please just check it out? You can check it out online. There's lots of ways that you can protect yourselves. But ventilation is the most important thing. It's not a little bit. Sometimes you really need to open that window and let the cold but fresh air in. Thank you.
Councillor Symington, do you have a supplementary? Thank you. Councillor Barry Mears.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was just wondering if we had a figure for what on average 7% increase is for rent for our tenants.
Councillor Griffiths.
Sorry, I do apologise. I don't have, obviously every tenant's going to be different depending on what, and also how much they actually have to pay, depending on what benefit they're on, etc., etc. So I don't have a figure for you now, but obviously that will all come out in the budget process that we're going to start very, very soon.
Do you have a supplementary on this matter?
Thank you. I was just wondering if on top of that, along with the council tax rise and also a green bin charge, if we think now's really a great time and if people are going to struggle, do we think, to pay that?
Well, we still have to, you have to bear in mind that the housing service still needs to run. So we still want to build, we still want to maintain, we still want to look after our properties. Now, all those costs, supply chain, staffing costs, are all going up a lot more than 7%. So it is a case of trying to balance that whole, I totally accept what you're saying. Yes, times are hard, but if we don't look after our properties, then we're going to have other issues that will cost us a lot more in the future. And we may have to stop building. There's all sorts of repercussions to any decision we take, whether we put it sky high or low down. The only good thing is that obviously all the benefits are going up because the government last week said they're putting all benefits up by 10.1%, I think it was. So the benefit increase will be higher than the housing charge. Thank you.
Councillor Tyndall.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Having dealt with the issue of damp and mould having dealt with the issue of damp and mould in the 80s in London, as a councillor in the London Borough, I know the problem of that, and I wonder if the portfolio holder could also express an opinion on the need for people to ensure that they have full ventilation when using washing machines and dryers, because they are also a generator of air droplets, which, if there is no ventilation, can also cause mould.
I totally agree. It's everything. If you burn an open fire, you've got a log burner. To be honest, it's sleeping at night. If you have the windows closed and the door closed, there's no air circulation, your body will produce moisture. Everything we do produces moisture, or it certainly feels like it, having looked into it. Not that I'm an expert on mould, but I do know that fresh air is the best thing for it, even if it is cold air. Oh, and do not put damp or wet clothes away in a drawer or cupboard, because that will just encourage it as well. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I see no other questions for Councillor Griffiths, so we will move on now to written questions from members. And Councillor England, would you like to ask your question, please?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I take it I'm right that I'm to read out my question. Thank you. Councillor Barrett, the council's recycling rates have not been reported since September 21, so numbers are several months late. In a Decorum press release published in 2018, it says that recycling continues to rise in Decorum, with a new verified rate for 2017-18 of 52.5%, which is up on last year's, which was 51.2%. If that trend could be maintained up by 1.3%, the figure now could be 57.7%, but it has flattened out at the same level now as it was in 2018. Both our neighbouring councils, St Albans and Watford, have progressed dramatically in the same time, but it looks as if Decorum leadership has not matched their ambition. On its current record, when can we expect the council to reach 60% of recycling, which was a target set by Decorum in 2014?
I think the question is for you, Councillor Barrett.
That's what I said.
Thank you, Councillor Ingram, for your question. I can advise you that Decorum exceeded the average recycling rate as measured by across all Hertfordshire local authorities over the whole of the 4-year period from 2017-18 through to 2021. In fact, during the whole of that period, Decorum was consistently the 4th best performing local authority in Hertfordshire, as it was again in 21-22. In 21-22, in the 21-22 period, 7 out of 10 Hertfordshire authorities saw a reduction in their recycling rates, including St Albans. Noting the comparison with Watford, in 2017-18, Watford recycled over 15% less than Decorum. In 21-22, they were still recycling at a lower percentage of waste than we were. So yes, they're doing well, but not as good as us. I would further advise that in 21-22, Decorum collected the second highest amount of total household waste, as measured in kilograms per household, across all Hertfordshire local authorities. All of this demonstrates that Decorum is a high-performing local authority and is a testament to the hard work and dedication of our waste services personnel. However, notwithstanding our historic good performance, I can advise that we are seeking to achieve a minimum recycling rate of 60% by 2030, which is in line with national targets. Thank you.
Councillor England, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you. I note that the portfolio holder seems to be congratulating our neighbouring authorities on their excellent improvement. Probably just move to my supplementary, which is, when will the portfolio holder set a date to achieve 65%, which is the current Herts Waste Partnership target, of which he just quoted that we were above average?
I certainly wasn't congratulating our neighbouring authorities. I was just demonstrating they weren't doing as well as us. I'm not in a position to give you a time frame for setting the 65% target. Clearly, we want to achieve 60% first, and once we do that, then we'll move on and improve from there.
Councillor England.
Thank you. Has the I note that the portfolio holder has repeated that neighbouring authorities are not doing as well as we are. But has he got an understanding of how Lib Dem Three Rivers is already achieving mid 60%?
Councillor Barrett.
Obviously, I'm not at Three Rivers. I think that there are a number of reasons why a council might achieve more in terms of the size of the council area, the amount of population, and where those houses are sited, and the amount of cost that they put into their recycling. So I think, yes, Three Rivers have a high percentage, but I would say at what cost?
Councillor England, you are entitled to one more supplementary.
One more. I shan't waste it. I shan't waste it. Can we take seriously any of the Conservatives' targets, and can residents afford to wait any longer than May 2023 for a change of council leadership in Decorum?
That's not a question, Councillor England. No. Of course you can accept everything that the Conservatives say.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. Have we not had a situation in recent councils where the portfolio holder has refused to accept the premise of the question? And is that not what's just happened?
I'm not 100% certain that the question actually was a supplementary question to your main question, but I allowed it. as far as I'm aware, Councillor Barrett has attempted to answer it, and I'm happy to accept his response. I think we should now move on to your second question, which is directed at Councillor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having regard to the Air Quality Action Plan 2019 to 2024 and objectives therein, further to maintaining close links with the local transport plan, local planning and public health, and the electric vehicle charging infrastructure strategy, which so far has not produced any actual change in emissions to date, and now looks unlikely to deliver on promises earlier this calendar year. Which of the other 9 commitments made in the Air Quality Action Plan have been pursued further since 2019, and how?
Councillor Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this administration has committed itself to the climate change emergency by the motion that we passed. Mr. Mayor, Councillor England, the scrutiny chair and members are aware that the air quality report is coming to SPEI overview and scrutiny in January 2023, and I therefore would not want to preempt the rights of that committee to scrutinise that report. I have no doubt that officers will address the specific questions that the councillor has raised. Mr. Mayor, this matter has been addressed separately in an email to Councillor England on the 16th of November and copied to the scrutiny chair, but this response is not yet in the public domain, and so I feel unable to comment at this point.
Councillor England.
As this is full council and we're asking questions to portfolio holders, I hope the portfolio holder will be able to express some opinion. Which of these remaining aims will be progressed first, if she could perhaps just pick one of them? Is it going to be influencing emission reduction from new developments? Is it going to be potential to relocate bus stops and on-street parking in the North Church air quality monitoring area? Is it going to be a clean air zone feasibility study? Is it going to be a workplace parking levy? Is it going to be a private hire and taxi vehicles emissions policy? Is it going to be an advanced quality bus partnership? Is it going to be reducing council emissions? Is it going to be emission-based parking charges? Or is it going to be promoting sustainable travel and discouraging the use of single car journeys? Are there actual plans in progress on any of those 9?
I'm rather concerned about the direction of this question, Councillor England. It seems to me that one of the most important functions within the council is that of our scrutiny committees and their ability to hold to account both the cabinet and the officers who serve under our guidance. By asking the portfolio holder at this stage to comment in detail upon an item which is coming to and has been gazetted as coming to the scrutiny committee, the relevant scrutiny committee, of which I'm not sure whether you're still a member, you certainly were when I was chair of that committee. It seems to me that you're undermining, possibly undermining, the scrutiny committee and its effectiveness within the council. And it's much, much more important, to my mind, from the democratic point of view, that the scrutiny committees under no circumstances should be undermined in any way, shape or form. I don't know if if Councillor Banks wishes to comment further, but I would caution her against committing herself as a portfolio holder in this case, if it, especially as the item is to be discussed by the relevant committee.
Mr Mayor, thank you. I absolutely accept the point that you're making. Thank you for your clarity. I would simply ask that Councillor England holds his question until February. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Point of order, what's the point of written questions then at full council? Just of interest, what is the point of this forum?
I am going to ask the legal officer to comment upon that intervention.
Where the question is put in writing, it's reasonable for a member to defer that question if it's coming up in a forthcoming report and provide that answer in full, particularly where it sounds like the answer is being developed at the point in time of the meeting, so the response given is reasonable.
Councillor Banks, could you switch off?
Oh, my apologies, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor, on a point of clarification.
Councillor England.
I just want to clarify that the reason I'm asking this question is because air quality has not been scrutinised for 2.5 years at this council.
Yes.
I've asked for it to be on the agenda. I've asked for the DEFRA accredited numbers to be on the agenda. I've asked you, Mr Mayor. And it hasn't happened. It's been promised for November. In October, it was still promised for November. How do I know in November that it's now promised for February or January, whenever, it's not going to change again?
Thank you, Councillor England. Since you have criticised me for the matter, I would point out to you, as I did at the committee, the relevant committee when I was chair, that our hands were bound because we did not have from DEFRA the revised figures which made sense of the readings that were taken at street level. I was as frustrated about that as you were, and indeed I wrote on several occasions to the officer, who I believe has now left us, but the officer concerned, asking him to hurry up the process if possible, and I believe that Councillor Banks also tried to do the same thing. But there is little point in trying to draw conclusions from figures which may or may not be accurate. And I'm sorry to say that you therefore have to blame a ministry rather than this council or any section of this council on this particular matter. Thank you. I think we shall now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is business from the last council meeting. I believe that there were no outstanding points from the last council meeting, in which case we shall move on to item 7, which is cabinet referrals. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've turned members' attention to the cabinet referrals on page 6 of the agenda, with the first recommendation under CA 7422 from the Cabinet of the 27th of September, financial performance Q1 22-23, with a resolve to recommend under 2 and 3.
Seconded.
Turning into page, I think that takes us to page 9, CA 86 of 22, annual treasury report with a resolve to recommend on the following page.
Seconded.
This one. I've also, I've done. I've missed one, Mr Mayor, from the MTFS refresh of the 18th of October with a resolve to recommend on the following page.
Seconded.
And then I turn to page 11, and there is a resolve to recommend from the Cabinet of the 15th of November 2022, CA 101 of 22, which is the housing management restructure. Now, the item is in part 2 of the agenda, but I can take it in part 1 if there are no questions, if members are happy with the recommendations. If there is questioning, then I will defer it to the end of the meeting. So I move the resolve to recommend.
Seconded.
Are there any questions?
No, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor.
Councillor Williams, I'm sorry if I missed this. I thought that you had not covered the financial monitoring report.
I did, but I missed out the MTFS, so I've gone back. I did do financial monitoring before MTFS.
Okay.
Sorry, Mr Mayor, I went too far. On the rare occasion, I went too fast.
Thank you very much.
So I've now got a proposer and seconder for the housing management restructure with an indication there are no questions, Mr Mayor, so I put that to council.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Williams. Overview and scrutiny referrals. I believe there are none. Then we move to agenda item 9, changes to committee membership. Do we have any changes to committee membership? Thank you. Councillor, the Leader of the Opposition, do you have any changes to committee?
Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Agenda item 10, changes to committee dates. I believe you have some changes to committee dates.
One change of committee date, Mr Mayor, and that is to notify that the Cabinet, which is scheduled for Tuesday the 13th of December, will move to Wednesday the 14th of December. I'm grateful for the agreement of colleagues as it will enable me to attend a parliamentary reception for local government on the evening of the 13th. To the benefit of the council, I might add.
I forbear to comment from the chair. Thank you, Councillor Williams. We now move on to item 11, call-in and urgency procedures. Are there any? None. Thank you. So now we move to item 12, which is a constitution report. Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. I've noticed that Councillor Tyndall's light's on. Is it in relation to this report? Thank you. Moving, as you say, to the constitutional amendments, there are 2 items to be considered here by members. One is the recommendation that we change the increase in members' allowances next year from the proposed in the independent remuneration panel's report that we should match CPI to that which we should match the average pay award for our staff, which is not 10.1% but 5.92. And a second change to the Constitution in relation to written questions, and that being that rather than being required to be submitted on the Friday prior to a full council meeting, they should be submitted in line with motions on the Friday 10 days before full council, Mr Mayor. Those are the 2 recommendations.
May I ask if you have discussed this with the Leader of the Opposition?
Mr Mayor, it was actually my suggestion on the written questions item because it made sense. It then means that the written questions could be printed in the agenda and we will not get the fuss we had earlier in the year about what the question was.
Very good. Thank you, Councillor Tyndall. Thank you, Councillor Williams. That brings us...
Sorry, apologies, Mr Mayor. I don't think we've actually agreed that.
Oh.
Seconded.
You did have a seconder there, did you? Thank you. Beg your pardon. I am trying to move through it too swiftly. We now come to item 13, which is referral from the Electoral Review Committee. Councillor Williams. if you would.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The recommendation of the Victory Review Committee, fairly simple change which has been forced upon the council by the fact that one property which we use as a polling station in the Feldon area is being sold and will not be available. We've identified a suitable alternative facility at the Boxmoor Trust, and therefore the recommendation is that the polling place order for the appropriate change is agreed by council.
Seconded.
Thank you. That concludes the business for this evening's council meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you.